Hello and welcome back to another episode of Under the Floorboard. It's actually episode 10 we're on now, can you believe that? And we have another exciting guest on today. We have Jenna Playfair on today. I always go to say fair play for some reason, I don't know why, but Jenna on today.
And not the joke of, do you? Playfair.
Playfair.
I get that quite a lot.
God, I must have got it all. But listen, thank you very much for coming on. You've got a really exciting story about a project you're technically still in the middle of, just about finished.
Yeah,
I can't wait to dive into all of that as well and take us through that. But for people who might not know you, tell us a wee bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I think I always kind of start with, I'm a mum of 3 boys because ultimately that's what I do most of my time. And that's kind of, I suppose, what defines me at the moment. So I've got 3 boys that are 4 and under. So I've got a 1, 2 and a 4-year-old.
3, 4 and under?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Jesus.
So yeah.
I thought it was
and that's usually the reaction I get as well. So yeah, I'm out here now.
That's a challenge.
But,
is that you now? You're like, done?
Oh yeah, that's us done. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's like you got it all in the one go, let's go, get another one.
Stop.
I always make the joke, which maybe isn't that appropriate, but to say that if we were to have another child, I probably would be a single parent because I think my husband would just be like, right, see you later, I'm out of here.
I signed up for 3 and that's it.
Yeah. 3's are a good number. It feels nice. It feels like that's us finished and we're happy and it's comfortable. I think a lot of people maybe have that after 1, after 2, but we have that feeling after 3, so
my
it's
friend,
lovely.
His wife's due next week. He's 54. She is 49. First child.
Wow.
I'm like,
I thought you were going to say like 5th or 6th child there. I thought that's...
First child. I've been just buying paint. They've got white carpets and white sofas and everything, and I've been buying paint, plastic from Amazon and piles for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, so it's good you get 3 over with.
Yeah, so I guess, I always say that first because as you can imagine, it shapes everything that we do at the moment. But my background is, so I started off my first sort of jobs where I was a lifeguard and a swimming teacher whilst I got a Master's of Arts in Accountancy and Finance.
Wow.
So I did them alongside each other. So it was great actually because you get paid for the responsibility of what could happen rather than what you actually do. So it was a good job while studying. And then I graduated from that and I started off my career to study to become chartered in South Africa for a year and a half. So I was an auditor over there and I was primarily auditing the car industry over there.
Right.
And then came back and became chartered back in Scotland. And then met my husband Lewis, had our 3 children, and at that point a lot just changed in me. I started wanting different things out of life and it was almost like sort of there was a blind that went up in my mind and I just saw all this possibility of what you can get out of life, and that's when I decided that I really wanted to go into property.
So was that after the 3rd child then?
It was on my 3rd mat leave.
Yeah. Must be more to just that.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in terms of, like, I always my moment was always like kind of that Christmas period and just like, there must be more to this than getting by month to month and whatever else.
I think so, partly like you say, so because I'd taken essentially 3 years out of work and that's like 3 years of one income and, money's tight. Mm-hmm. And so there's that side of things. You get a little bit fed up of that feeling.
Yeah.
But also it was just, I honestly, I tried to think what it was about having my 3rd child, but they're just all of a sudden I changed a lot and suddenly I just wanted more out of life. I think probably perspective changed on what was important. I think when I had my first child, I still tried to be the career corporate woman that I had been before. But by the time I'd had my 3rd, all that mattered to me was my children and wanting to be with them and giving them the most out of life, which maybe sounds bad that I didn't have that perspective after baby number 1, but it did just take me 3 to finally know what was important.
No, I get that as well because like, your first one, you're obviously still finding your feet as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're still confused, always a bit confused like what to do. And then also you've had like 3... I was going to say like 3 rapid, but you know what I mean? Like the 10 years like one after the other. So you don't have to maybe have that second to stop and think like, right, breathe, like what's next?
And those 3 years off of work sound like a lot of time, but it was probably breathing space to say, actually, what am I interested in? What do I want to do? And that's when, I suppose my interest came.
And I suppose I'm thinking back to the kids' things, and this is just probably my experience. The first one, obviously you do every single thing possible, right? And by the time you get to the third kid, you're like, this is a breeze. He's not getting as great. He can pretty much do what they want, right? I've got plenty of time on my hands.
You're getting Haribo for breakfast,
You're like that. I've got time. I need to think. So see, when you were a chartered accountant, were you working for a company or self-employed? Or?
Yeah, so I started off in practice. So essentially I was an auditor, so I audited loads of different industries, and then I went into industry, so that's like the terminology as an accountant, and so now I work 3.5 days in PFI, so it's quite not hard to explain, but I basically manage the finances that come in from the private funding into hospitals and schools and wind farms and that sort of thing. So,
and when was your, I suppose, epiphany? When was your, right, I'm not doing this, I'm going to do something else? How many years ago was that? Was that just recent? Or?
So it was on my third mat leave is when, I started to think that property could be for me. Is that what you're referring to there? How many years ago was that then? How many years? Oh, just like 1 year ago.
No, I was trying to do a calculation, like 4 under, or 3 under 4. Yeah. Trying to do calculations. That would have been the last year or two, but
just about 1 year.
So why was it property, or did you look at other things? Was it just property? Like why?
So how property came about? So I suppose my family have been in property as well. So my dad had his own portfolio, and my sister and parents had an SA that they ran just outside of Edinburgh. And so I've always been exposed to it, but I wouldn't say we spoke about it much. I just knew that it was happening. I didn't know the details of how it worked, and in that sense, it's probably always been in my head that it's an option, but I've never been interested in it before. But on that particular maternity leave, because of the boys' ages, they're often needing sleeps at the same time. I would always be out in the van just driving around like farm roads and towns and when they're sleeping. And every time I saw a for sale sign, I thought, I wonder what's going on there.
Yeah.
Or, like a derelict building. I wonder what the story is there. And I think it started, so that coupled with like, okay, let's try and get more money here, as well as actually I'm really interested in that, as well as I would say I'm quite a creative person. So, flips and things like that. Like I've enjoyed that flip that we've done a lot. But I'd say that's where all of a sudden I started to think, I'm actually really interested in this and let's see where this could go. But I think ultimately I knew that if I wanted to do it, I wanted to be educated before I got going.
Yeah.
And that's at the point where I came across a 1 day, just an introduction, I suppose, to property, and then signed up to a 5-day course after that. So
yeah, good. I think also, we've spoken about playing it in the past. I mean, people going out to do courses and then kind of fall away by the wayside, kind of think everything's just going to get almost handed to you when you walk out the doors going, right.
Absolutely.
Everybody gets that same feeling, but it's also good to see when people do go through it, and we've done it as well. And you come back off the end of it and go like, taking action and getting results as well. So that's brilliant to see you've done that and now put it into action as well. And I suppose your background in like, accountancy, so dealing with numbers would be pretty well as well. Plus you've got that creative side, like you said. So combine all that plus education. That's
what I feel on that course. A lot of people were saying they were overwhelmed, and I understand completely. I was overwhelmed at times as well, but it wasn't so much in the information that was getting given. And I think probably my background in accountancy and finance did help towards that. When we were talking about numbers and this and that didn't overwhelm me as much as understandably it would overwhelm someone who wasn't naturally comfortable with numbers. But whilst I was doing that course as well, I still had a baby. He was tiny.
Oh.
So I was still like breastfeeding. I was having to go on my break with express my milk and then go back and sit and learn about property. And my hormones were all over the place. I was like speaking to people, tearing up at different things, and I was like, this is crazy. But
so emotional.
12% profit. I'm sorry, that's 12% net yield on that. I don't know what to say.
I mean, you both,
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what the hormones are like. So it literally was like that.
Yeah.
I mean, not but we don't have to know what it's like for
But
us,
you'll
but like we've seen it.
experienced it firsthand,
Experienced the other side of it, going, "Why are you crying at banana?" Like,
It was a nice banana, by the way.
Yeah.
but then, I mean, even just kind of take it on to that. So, how did the first one come about? Like, how was
So,
that? Like,
Yeah.
was it sourced by yourself or how?
So I'd already. So the first one was in West London, and it was on through Auction House, but I'd already came across it before.
So your first purchase is through auction.
Yes.
Not a lot of people do that as well. It's quite a big
Yes.
jump to take as well.
I would
isn't
say
it?
that doesn't scare me, but sometimes maybe it should. But generally in life, I'm a little bit like that. Things don't. It takes quite a lot to be scared by something like.
I think the auctions,
You know-
people just hear the word
Yeah.
and they're terrified. Whereas if you, please don't take this as an entire compliment, being accountants, you're probably quite logical when you work out numbers and you work out how you do it, and you go, actually, if I can get it at that price,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if I've bought it from the person next door
Yeah.
or an auction house. It's just a property.
Yeah.
So the numbers of training you put in the
Yeah.
education you've had, like I've done all the numbers. Here's my worst case.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be
and
that
also I should mention my husband is a quantity surveyor,
Oh.
and we do it together.
There you go.
Just get
He's
that
set
in
up.
now, but
I mean, in our head right now, we're like that. Wow, you took this long to work out what you were going to be doing.
No, but that's still good. Though. I mean, that's I guess
yeah,
it takes away some of that fear as well. I'll take that away. Like you've done the education, put it in practice, the number side of it, so you've got that. But I
Yeah.
guess having that extra bit of confidence with your husband there as well to go, actually, yeah, we are doing the right thing. Your numbers are spot on, and I agree with all this. And
absolutely.
So-
yeah, so that was on the market before I did the training. Then after the training was finished, it was still on the market because it turns out because it wasn't mortgageable. Like as you know, that scares a lot of people. They would never even consider a bridge, and so it was on the market for a while. This property, so the fact it was still on the market when I had finished the training, I was like, right now I'll do my numbers, I'll do my due diligence, work out what the offer can be, put in the offer, and it was rejected through Auction House. So after another try, I wrote a little handwritten note, drove round to our door, popped it through the door, and I was like, I'm the one who's put in the offer, I would love to speak to you, can you please phone me? And then a couple of days went by and I hadn't heard, and I thought, maybe.
so were they living in the property at the time? Then is that right?
No, they lived round the corner.
Oh, right. Okay. So did you just obviously when you get to auction house to give you the title deed and all that anyway, don't you, with the legal pack?
Yes,
So you just
it was.
realised, right,
That's
okay.
exactly it. So actually, I was assuming that was the right house, but it turned out it was, which was lucky. Anyway, so she finally reached out and said, "Yes, I'm happy to speak to you." And so I remember taking the call. It was in a car park, and I had my youngest with me at the time. And I thought, right, I've been taught how to negotiate. Let's try
Put it
and
in
put this
practice,
into
yeah.
action. And amazingly, now I'm sure it's not always the case, but pretty much what we'd been taught in terms of find out the pain point, the way they might react to you is, at times you might feel a bit like a counsellor, that sort. It pretty much went exactly as this training had gone. Now, I'm not saying I said all the right things, I'm sure I didn't, but ultimately I just tried to be honest and say, so she had actually in her head that the refurb was going to be 30,000, but we had priced it at 110. And so she was way off. And that's why she obviously wasn't willing to accept the offer, because she had like total, unrealistic expectations there. And so by the end of the call, she had agreed to accept my offer.
Fantastic.
And so when I put it into Auction House the next day, and then it was accepted, and then it was a goer, which was great.
That's brilliant.
That's amazing. But
Yeah.
that's probably more with yourself than with numbers, like you're saying, if you're, because you know yourself, Sean, because you run the training, if you're personable and you relate to them and you speak to them rather than just no, I want 5% less, or I want this, it tends to work better.
Yeah.
Like the way you actually came across it and spoke to them like a person rather than, like you're saying, just the number side of it. No, we need it for this because I said this. You understood their situation, understood where they were coming from as well, and then obviously being able to politely say you're wrong in a sense with the refurbs. We are nearly 4 times as much as that for that, and that's why the numbers have to be here and putting into action what you are educated on as well. So
because a lot of the time people just, there's a negative, they're already negative before they've met you a lot of the time, and they just think you're out to rob me.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
if you go straight in, and I've done it myself, I want to talk about this money, you'd be as well never phoning them. But whereas the way that you've done it probably has helped, you know, just saying, look, I think it's this, and here's all the work, and we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then so what happened? Auction house accept the offer?
They accepted it, but I wasn't allowed to say that I had spoken to her for some reason. So I just went with her wishes. So I put in the offer through auction house.
She said to you not to tell.
She said not to say. We'd had this conversation. I wasn't sure why. I don't know why. Anyway, then it was all accepted officially through the auction house, and we got the keys. So that was funded through a bridge. But as you know, with auction house, you've still got like your 10% deposit and then your fees that you've got to pay. So in the end, the entire purchase and development was funded through the bridge. However, because of that initial 10% and the 3.6 fee, it's, even though it's funded, you've still got that initial money to put down. Yeah.
And how much was the bridge? Sorry, how much did you put out to start with?
So 125,000 to purchase, and then I think it was about £90,000 we got for development finance.
So you had to put down initially 15k?
About that, yeah.
Just about to secure it essentially from auction house?
Yeah.
Good.
Exactly.
And you got a development bridge for the 90k, or did you?
Yes, yeah.
And it was the renovation paid for as well then on that? The whole thing?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think obviously flips are quite like, I don't know, like sort of people see a flip, especially on like auction places as well. Home under a hammer, quite romanticised and stuff. Was it like that for you? Like, walk us through your real experience of a flip through auction. Nothing against obviously the auction house, of course.
Yeah.
But how was
Do you
your
know what? I
experience
think
of
in
that
this
first one?
situation with the flip, we got to view it before we put in that offer. And I think that was really helpful. I could go round with my dad as well, was a quantity surveyor. And, you know, actually we felt comfortable with, and we had contingencies in there and things like that. So in terms of the fact we bought through auction, it didn't really feel that different compared to buying on the market. Because I think it's that viewing makes a difference, doesn't it? If you can get to view it, then. And we had a solicitor look at the legal pack, and they were happy. In fact, there was an issue with the land registry, but we got that expedited. And the minute that was expedited, that's at that point we said, okay, let's go for this then, and put the offer in. So.
And how was it from kind of going through it? Did you have your own build team in place? Did you do a lot of work? Or
yeah, so we pretty much had a brilliant builder who came recommended through somebody Lewis knew through his job, obviously, as a QS. We didn't know him well enough to know if it would go well or not, but we thought, okay, he came recommended, hopefully it'll be fine. It turns out he was absolutely excellent, and he project managed pretty much the whole thing for us. Lewis did a lot of the materials just because he's obviously got those contacts anyway. So he was like supplying the materials. But what was brilliant was when our builder was asking for things, Lewis was like, okay, I know exactly what you're asking for, and could, I suppose, cut down a lot of time. If that had been myself, I could have done it, but it would have taken a lot longer and a lot more learning. So what we're trying to do as we go through it, what we've tried to do this time is things that I don't know, like Lou will deal with, but I'm trying to learn it as well so that, you know, going forward. So it's not slowing us up, but I'm needing to learn these things for myself as well. So.
No, but you've probably saved on cost as well, because you might have bought, if they said I want X, and you might have said, oh, well, I'll buy it in 30 metres of it. And he's like, I only need half a metre.
Yeah.
You've just a lot of wastage or
exactly.
over cost. So that's handy that Lewis had that.
Yeah.
And then what was the build time? What did you do in the build as well?
So we stripped it right back to brick. It had rising damp. So holes in the walls and things like that. So it was a mess, like a really real mess. So we stripped it right back in the end, pretty much just built it back out again. We added in an ensuite, which originally we hadn't budgeted to do, but decided that this was like the house could take it and it might be quite a good decision, just where it was. And yeah, so we pretty much built it back out.
Did you need planning or? building warrant or
building
anything?
warrant, yeah. So we had to get building warrant for obviously adding in the ensuite, and also where the kitchen was, there was a separation with a door between like the living area and the kitchen, which we took that down and we added in patio doors as well. So we needed building warrant for all that stuff. So
Did you think of, obviously, how long did you take the bridge over? I know it's minimum 3 months. You take over like 9 or 12?
12. Yeah. So
did you have any, I guess, apprehensions of putting a building warrant through, like how long will this set us back? You obviously can't really do the work until it's in and stuff.
Yeah.
So a bridge, you're trying to get off as quickly as you can.
Exactly. Yeah, it was all factored in. I suppose that's why we went for the 12-month, especially with it being our first flip as well. And we have, it's a friend of ours who's our architect that we use, and he's brilliant, has good relationships with the council and things like that. So that's been really great for
sped it up as well.
getting everything. So yeah, it's all just been cleared.
Yeah, a lot of these
last
things,
week or something, which is
I think
good
for a new person. Like, it's really daunting. I mean, first of all, the first property you pick, you go back to brick. That's quite scary.
Yeah.
You know, the first one I think I did, we put a new kitchen in and painted it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you were like, I'll tell you what, we'll just take it right back on. We'll add a bathroom. And then I have to get building warrant.
Yeah.
So what, I guess from that point to how much % do you think you've gained or learned, or like thinking about your next one and things like that?
Oh, we've learned so much. And one thing I will say is, and when we were doing the courses, you know, it was told like, you know, only go for projects that give you this amount of money or this percentage. And we took a call on this one that we're still going to, if it sells, make profit.
When it sells,
thank you. Going to make profit, but it wasn't crazy profit like what they were sort of saying, like, you know, don't. And I thought, but actually we need to take this on, that we are going to learn so much from this. And so let's take this on and use it as a learning experience rather than focusing too much on what are we actually going to end up with at the end.
I think having that criteria is also important, because obviously it kind of sets the boundaries of what kind of deal you're going to take on. But for your first deal or first couple of deals, I think too many people wait for that perfect deal. Like, oh, I'm waiting for a 20% ROI. It's only 18%. I can't take it. But really, you're going to learn more on that first project that goes into your next one. Maybe you actually over budgeted on that first one, and you can start to reel it in. So I think, get the deal done and make sure you're also making profit. And there's enough margin in there as well. But don't wait for that perfect deal for your first deal or first couple of deals. You know what I mean? Just get in, make the profit, make the learnings you make in that first deal, and the learnings you made on this first one would be massive, because you went back to brick for your first one, an auction purchase, you've used bridge and finance. You pretty much ticked all the boxes that people kind of stay away from.
People go, let's not do these on the first 5, right? You're like,
no, do you know what? We're going to rebuild the whole thing.
Now you know how my mum feels. I'm like, Mum, I'm moving to South Africa. She's like, what? I think that's probably just my outlook on life a little bit, that just sort of goes towards that feeling of like, let's just go for it. With a little bit of security and knowing that, again, that we have a okay background and a little bit of training, you know, that sort of thing as well. But ultimately, I just thought, once I've learned something, I do really just want to put it into action. That's just my instinct. I think I would have struggled to sit on it.
And where is it now?
A bit of luck as well, let's be honest, that the offer was accepted. It could have been rejected.
I mean, you created your own luck in that sense. Not many people, I don't think, would have had, I guess, one courage to actually go direct to the seller as well, to go, look, actually, let's have a conversation where you actually do that, and have the maybe know-how and savvy to go, actually, I'm going to just, there's the title deeds, there's the seller, there's the details of where they stay. I'm going to send them a message or a letter, a handwritten note to say, let's have a conversation, because that doesn't come without you doing that, you know. So even though you say it's about luck, you've created that own luck for yourself by going and doing that. So it's very good.
A lot of the time, people would just expect things just to, like on the courses, streets are paved with gold, they're just going to walk on it, whereas you're like a bit determined about it, going, exactly as you say, I'm going to get it, I'm going to go and find it. I mean, you're knocking a complete stranger's door and saying hi, putting a letter through going, hi, I want to buy your house off you and I want to talk to you about it. And she's like, who are you? You know? So it takes a lot, and it's really, as you say, quite courageous to do that.
Thank you.
Where are you on it? What's the current status?
So it's currently on the market. I think it's been on the market now for a month.
Can we ask what the number is?
The number
You're trying to sell it. You're hoping. What is your looking number?
310.
The big one.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. But as I say, you know, what we purchased it for, the refurb, it's not huge money we'll be making on sale if we manage to sell it for 310. But
It's still profit, the
we'll still be
learnings, go through the whole
delighted,
process
yeah,
of
we
buying
would
it,
still be-
bridging,
yeah,
everything you've learned from it as well,
Yeah.
going into the next few will be, you know, invaluable as well. But
yeah.
what would you say your biggest, like, I had no idea it'd be like this, doing the project, like, the rip out, can a lot of people rip things back to brick and go,
Yeah.
shit, what have I done here?
Bitten off too much.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I guess it's the commitment, actually, is the part that has thrown me off the most. Every step of what we've done, we've faced an issue. And it's the commitment to say, right, how are we going to address this? And I think that's something that's helped as the projects went on, because at the start of the project, there was a couple of things coming up and you maybe start to panic. And by the end, I thought, right, do you know what? You need to just control what you can control. And what you can control the most is your mind. And so, you know, you're faced with these issues and it's just saying, how I react to this is going to influence what the outcome here is going to be, rather than panic. Oh my goodness, like, what do we do? And you can only do what you can do, can't you? So,
Yeah, that's like a good mindset, because it's almost like these are just obstacles that I just need to get over.
yeah,
Rather than,
yeah,
oh, I need to throw the keys away.
yeah, yeah.
No, good. What you mentioned, like, issues at the beginning and through it.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through any of them?
Yeah, so when we first got the property, so this is a learning as well, is we actually had got the boundary wrong for what we owned,
All right.
but it was in a good way. So we owned more than we thought.
Oof.
But
Nice. It's very nice.
I'm a bit embarrassed to admit that we didn't actually have it right on the offset. But there was this big telephone BT pole in the garden.
Right.
But with the boundary we thought we had, we didn't think this would be an issue because it was on the fence. But it turns out that we owned right up to another fence. So by the time that we cleared the garden and took this fence down, we then had this massive pole just in the middle of the garden. It had wires hanging off it. Like, it's not going to be safe for children, or, you know, it's also going to be an eyesore.
Was it live?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
nice.
so that was one thing. Contacted BT and got told it would be 10 grand to bury it.
They're going to charge you to bury their own
Yes.
issues.
But this is a situation where having a husband like Lewis helped, because he knew the right questions, the right people to speak to.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they paid us to bury it.
Can I ask how much they paid you?
Not much at
no.
all. But like, I'm meaning like hundreds, not thousands or anything.
Yeah.
But
So hold on, they're going to charge you. They'll pay you hundreds to
But
bury
can-
it, but you had to pay them thousands.
But can you see like
That's how
how
the big
that
ones
would
make
have
money.
impacted our numbers like
Yeah.
so drastically? And so that was one thing. Our chimney as well, we had planned to put in a stove and use the existing chimney. But once they started doing work, it turns out that whole chimney wasn't structurally sound. And so that actually had to, the top from the roof up has to just come down completely.
Oh, really?
And obviously the biggest test to us was it was about to go on the market, and this was a week where my kids hadn't been well, and I remember sitting on the couch and saying to Lewis, like, I know I need to go tonight, because we had home report and staging booked in. In fact, I think it was staging the next day and home report the next, something like that. I know I need to go and just make sure it's ready for staging to come in, and that they don't have to be like moving, and it's cleaning, not dirt. So I was going to go and do the cleaning myself. And I was sitting on the couch and I just wasn't well. And I said, I just don't know if I can go. And Lucy said, oh, yeah. And anyway, then we got a call from the builder to say that a pipe had burst in the kitchen. And so it went from like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to go, to
I need to go.
I absolutely need to go to this house tonight. And that's where it's funny how adrenaline kicks in. Like, I didn't even feel ill anymore. I was just like, right, oh my goodness, we need to go out here. So so that obviously was a big part of the journey. And again, mindset there played such a big role, because initially when I was on the phone, I was a bit quiet, came off, and I thought, right, ultimately I need to just handle this well with him, because it has happened now. You know, you could start to point the blame and why has this happened? But it was like, well, just how do we fix it? So
I love that as well, because obviously I think I do remember seeing you'd posted that.
Yeah.
I think it was in one of the groups we're in, and you'd posted like obviously not well with the kids and everything else, and and then you said like, oh, we've got a burst pipe, and you're in the house trying to deal. I'm like, fair play, because there's many people who not well, kids are not well. Like we all know how horrendous that is. You're already possibly a bit nervous with the staging, home report coming, and then you've got a burst pipe, and you're like, that's enough to like crumble you. Do you know what I mean? But you actually just went, nah, do you know what? Like, doesn't matter who's to blame, if there isn't anybody to blame. Let's just get it fixed, and then deal with it later on. Grab some paracetamol and off you go.
But as you say, it probably gives you a bit of sport, doesn't it? You're like, this is something that must happen.
Exactly.
Or I'm going to spend weeks, lost tons of money, go so far back. So that's impressive.
Yeah. I guess that's where having the 3 children, it's given me resilience in that sense, where you know, you just have to get on with it, don't you?
Aye.
So probably in that situation, I wouldn't react the same as I might have before I had children, because now you're kind of faced with crazy things every day, and you're like, it's not as big a deal as it maybe would have been before.
And how did you find balancing family and the project and everything else that goes with it?
I'll be honest, I don't think we have found the balance yet. I think that this year's been genuinely one of the hardest years. I would love to say, oh yeah, like we've got it all sorted out, but we definitely don't. I think this year has been, we just had to say, okay, well, if we want this, we need to put everything into it. And probably things that, like, you know, socialising, that sort of thing has definitely, my husband and I, we are just like, you know, I'm sure you've had that where you're just like passing ships, because you're just like doing everything you can to just get on. But I think the main thing this year is we've enjoyed it. We love it. We love doing the property, and because of that, that gets us through. It's just constantly juggling, I think. But I think you naturally do that as a parent anyway, of you know, juggling.
And it's tricky because they're young, you know, when they start going to school and nursery and things, you'll be like, you won't know what to do with your time.
I know. Like,
bored, might watch daytime TV.
I know. Oh, that's a distant memory.
Yeah,
but that's probably, I mean, that's definitely something that we don't do. I'm talking about telly. We genuinely barely ever sit down and watch telly anymore. You know, like that sort of thing where we would have done a lot of before. We can't physically do it now. But I think, like, so what we do is probably, like, say it's a stage of the children. Our business is early on. And so this is like a building stage. We're still doing our careers and, you know, forwarding our careers as well. But everyone who's starting out a business, it's not going to be easy. And that's definitely something that maybe isn't spoken about. I don't know. Not in the training, I wouldn't say. It's not laid out as honestly as how hard it is going to be.
I can relate entirely to, so I know.
Yeah.
So in the next couple of weeks, this house is going to get sold.
Yeah.
And then what's next?
So we're looking at quite an exciting project. It's a much bigger project at the moment.
Bigger?
Yeah.
Bigger.
Do you know glutton for punishment? Do you understand that term?
You never heard of these like 90k buy-to-let flats? You know? Nah.
Well, that's that. So during that time, we have actually invested in 2 buy-to-lets in the Borders that we're currently going through building warrant at the moment, and then looking to start that refurbishment very soon. Good.
Is that for your own portfolio?
That's for our own portfolio, which wasn't in the original plan, but one of them was it was a 50% discount, so it was almost a no-brainer of like, why would you not? And that's, again, just through learning and ways to put money to work. I've raised the finance for that, and it's not my own money, and figuring out how all that works and trying to utilise that side of things as well.
How did they come about? Is that through networking or?
One was passed over to me as a referral,
right.
And the other one I just saw on the open market.
And how did you said that it wasn't your money, so how did you raise finance? How did you?
So raising finance currently has all been in family, so I've been lucky with that. But it's not been easy.
I think obviously it's that kind of angel investor stage, isn't it? But it's people you know, family, friends.
Yeah.
Even as much as they want to give you as much support in the world and go,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah.
There's still got a bit of apprehension to, you can do it, but can you do it with my money? And once you've shown this with the Flip project and how big that was, and hopefully you've been documenting that as well with pictures and videos and everything else to show that, you know what, this is what we do, this is what we can do.
Yeah.
The grit, the determination we actually put into the project to make sure it gets done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm lying on the couch for whatever, but there's a burst pipe, I'm going to go and fix it at 12 o'clock at night. But you know what I mean? Like that, showing that grit and determination will come through as well with raising finance, whether it be angel investors or, you know, out with.
Yeah, no, we're hoping that, all going well, then it'll just encourage, you know, people to invest more with us and continue to grow in that sense as well.
And what are you, and I'm thinking of yourself, Sean, here. So I suppose, while you're busy building the house, I suppose another angle is you're probably struggling to find time to actually do the marketing of what you've been doing to build the house.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And obviously, you know better than anybody, the more you market, the more you're doing. So are you thinking about that? What is your thinking on that? Because you came from art, masters in art, so you must have that artistic, or I suppose marketing type of thing.
Yeah, I guess it's exactly as you say, it's just finding the time. But what I just try to do is, whenever we're in a situation, and 90% of the time the children will be there because they're there when we go and do our, you know, viewings, solicitor visits, everything, they're always there. So we're just taking videos of what's actually going on and trying to upload that as much as we can. But as you say, it's definitely something that could get better. It's just that time element at the beginning. So it's definitely something we're looking to grow on and get better at.
I was on a marketing course and the guy did say, actually, we're past the days of people being very straight and pinstripe suits and this is how we should look. He says, as soon as you know, and you do it, as soon as you bring in families and make it relatable, people are much more comfortable and trusting, because they're like, they're not trying to hide anything. This person, they're just, that's what they're like, you know, it's warts and all, so that's good.
Yeah, you notice that. You obviously do that as well with your daughter, and it's nice to see. It is nice. It's
nice to know that it's still a person you're talking to, because back to obviously you getting that one with the, you know, the letter going through the door, you're still talking to another person and understanding their needs, and to show that you, so people who would, like, you work with, whether it be like you looking to raise finance and stuff, if you've got like that family background and morals and values and stuff, then somebody else with the same sort of kind of values as you are more likely to invest with you or like sell to you or whatever else, you know what I mean? So I think obviously showing that through your own social media and your own personal brand as well, to show that, like, this is me, what I do, this is the property side of things, this is what I get up to in my spare time sometimes, and here's parts of, you know, the family that you want to show and encourage as well. So I'm going to,
so just a couple
before we go on to the next one, I was going to introduce the wee.
All right, go for it. I've had two already, so please jump in there. I've had two this morning because I
cannot get enough of them.
I've been taking these weird mushroom gummies and the ginger with it, which is super strong. So I'm just going to...
So these are Starbucks. Well, that
other brands are available.
I have actually... I've got you little thank you cards that are Starbucks vouchers, so that'll buy you a few more.
Incredible.
Setting the trend now, guessing to bring
all of that
gifts.
is because Sean doesn't like anything spicy, and I just think it's a bit of sport for me when he drinks them.
So do you have to just down
gulp it? Yeah,
it's really good for you, by the way. Your kids should be drinking them. Maybe no.
Kids should be anywhere near these. Exactly.
It's pure ginger. It's great for you.
Oh, that is so disgusting. I don't know if you know, but when you're pregnant, ginger stops you feeling sick. And so that brings back terrible memories for me.
All right, thanks. I don't know that.
To be fair, I've not really felt unwell since we've been doing these.
It's all these things. A friend of mine, Farah, She's Pakistani,
They're
and every
so
time we ever speak
spicy.
about things and we go, "Oh, I've got this," she was like, "Oh, boil this herb, boil this and do this," and I was like, special pots for boiling herbs and things now. But so see, just go back to so you've got the two buy to lets.
Yes.
What is happening? When are they finishing? What are you doing with them? I know you're late.
So this is something. So I'm having to rein it in because we've obviously just finished a flip, and it's just remembering like you're not going to do the same finish on a buy to let. So that's something I'm actually struggling about. You want to just make it so
in that way.
beautiful. Well, it still obviously will be, but you know what I mean. Like you're not going to
do.
spend the same amount. But so they're going through building warrant just now, and then I would imagine once we start the refurb on them, it'd probably take a few months, like 3 to 4 months, and then we'll get them rented out.
And are you using the same build team that you used for the flip for
We
these
can't
ones?
because of so our flip is West Linton up sort of Edinburgh way, but this is way down in the borders.
Oh,
so
right, yeah.
they are not willing to go that far. So, but luckily my husband is borders based, so he's got actually more
Plenty of
contacts in the
contacts.
borders than up
Right,
this
that's
way.
good then.
So that'll
Aye.
that'll work well.
Don't be sharing your husband's contact details with anyone here. Anyway. You're like, no. That's absolutely. And then when is the big one? What happens there that you said you've got?
So this is, we need to find the time, which is what we struggle for, to really sit down and say, we've been working on it for a while. Long story short, it came on the market. We put in an offer. It didn't go through. It's now back on the market. So we've done a lot of the work already, but somehow coming on again, you're a bit more like, well, let's just make sure that we were right the first time with what our figures said. And so we need to just sit down and decide, if we're hoping to go for it again, basically, and see what comes of that.
But equally, why did it come on again?
I think the person who bought it couldn't find the funds.
Let's just kind of fell through that way.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously, I know what you're saying about, because you don't want to be re-questioning your due diligence that you felt was strong in the first place.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, a deal is a deal.
Exactly.
And it might be that you go back with the same deal and say, look, deal still sits.
Yeah.
You know, we've worked it out.
Yeah.
Like you did with the lady on the West Linton one, you were like, here's the numbers and let me explain how I get there.
I think that with this one previously, we'd went through a selling agent, whereas if we're going to go for it again, we're going to reach out to the seller themselves. And
Is this another flip as well, sorry?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah. And a bigger number-wise as well?
Yeah.
Oh. Going for it again.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Where is this one? Oh, can you say where this one's based? Don't need to give postcode, obviously.
Midlothian based, yeah.
I was going to go central Scotland.
In Scotland somewhere.
An hour and a half's drive from here, roughly, maybe more. You know. But that's impressive that you're doing. See, everyone wants to do flips. But because everyone's doing it, there's not a lot of them. Market's tight. How are you finding them? Are you just... how are you finding these properties?
So I would say, like, taking West Linton as an example, actually, I've not touched on this, but it was a bit of a messy one because it was an inherited property and there was some issues with family around about it and some wanting to sell, some not, and blah, blah. It came with, I would say, a little bit of baggage. And I think we've taken that on. So I don't know if how I'm finding them is maybe going for properties that other people might walk away from because of certain reasons. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No. Non-mortgageable is one that people might walk away from.
So
example.
probably I would say that seems to be so far the one in the borders that we got such a discount. It's a brilliant property. We're chuffed to bits with it, but it doesn't have parking. Do you know, like, there's maybe reasons why people wouldn't buy that property, but we're saying, well, actually, could we still make that work, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So far, that's how it seems to have came across. Who knows what will happen in the next year? Yeah,
because I guess people have a list of criteria to make that a perfect property.
Yeah.
And when you're going, actually, I'm not really, but they want 90% parking, and you're like, I don't really need parking. Property works.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone then thinking about doing their first flip? like obviously somebody who maybe try to juggle work and kids and other responsibilities, like any advice for somebody obviously having gone through all of that you've just been through now?
Yeah, I just think like this year, the biggest learning for me is just saying, right, you know what you're capable of in your situation. This is your setup, and go at your own pace, and that's okay. Because I think like there's quite a lot of outside noise, you know, that comes in, and if you compare yourself to other people, and I think that's probably the advice I would give is just try not to panic and just do what you can do in your time. And as long as you do that, then you will get there. And I suppose that's just something I try and always tell myself. Yeah. The juggle it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Like, but just know that it's going to be hard. And when you're in it, you will work it out. So.
And do you set yourself a target? Have you set yourself, because a lot of people are like, I want this much, or do you just go, I've got these buy-to-lets, I'm interested, I'm going to get 10 for the end of the year, or what do you do?
So I don't have as much of a target of like, I want X amount of, but I'm working with a mentor at the moment that's trying to help us structure a little bit more of, time scales of like, how are we going to get to here and what is it we need to do to achieve that and that sort of thing. So again, that's something that hopefully we'll be able to improve on this coming year with using this mentor as well. So you're not just kind of, that's one thing in my situation is it's easy to feel like you're doing things, but it's maybe not as structured as you'd like. Sometimes fighting fires and, I think a mentor will help us try and get better at that.
Yeah, and they'll help you find help on how to raise finance, because finance is there. People will give it to you. They're just not aware of you to give it to you.
Yeah.
And that's probably just connecting those dots.
That's it. I mean, I try to go to networking events and try and do all that sort of stuff as much as I can. Again,
juggle everything.
Sorry, I'll just
find the time.
Well, so when I'd say I did it more at the first half of the year than the second. The first half I was pretty much like put myself out there as much as I could, and that's something that has had to give the second half. But that was a conscious decision. That wasn't, but just trying to do it as much as you can. As you say, just trying to get yourself out there, let people know that we're looking to raise finance, and we do offer fixed returns, and that's a service that we offer. It's just letting people know that, as you say, so they know where to find us. So
good. And is it what's kind of next on the? Is it flips and buy-to-let? You see this being like the start of the portfolio? Like, have you got a target in mind for the end of the year or so many years?
Yeah. So I would say, we would love to start sort of doing development, like ground up stuff. That's what my husband does. Okay,
I was going to say you just went from ground up. Jump straight to it.
No, I know. I don't want to sound like I'm being so flippant. I know how hard it'll be. I do know how hard it'll be.
It's only little bits.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh my God, we're going to build a tower block.
Yeah.
You're going, well, we're just going to flatten the ground.
But it's kind of like, why not? Like, if your husband's in that field anyway,
as I
you've
say,
got the confidence there.
Without him, I probably wouldn't feel like that, but that's what they do. And I think right now I can't say how long that'll take us to get there, but that's where I would like to get to at some point.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Love
that. That's what excites me, I would say.
Good.
So. And you're open to JVs on these, and people approach you for JVs?
Absolutely, always. Yeah, you're going to get there much faster working with people than on your own, aren't you? So definitely,
100%. Yeah. And also want to be kind of respectful of time, stuff like that as well. But if people want to reach out to you for things like JVs, raising finance, all that kind of thing, and even deals, if they get maybe land they want to sell you and stuff, like,
bring me your land.
How can people reach out to you? What's the best platforms?
So I'm on Instagram. We've got a business page, Playfair Property Group, and also just my personal page, Jenna Playfair, Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. I don't use Facebook as much. I'd love to hear from anybody. And please do get in touch, and it'd be lovely to hear.
Yeah, brilliant. And we'll put that on the show notes at the end as well.
Fab, thank you.
Fantastic. Listen, thanks very much for your time. That was incredible.
Thank you so much.
That was lovely. Living daylights out of me, by the way. But it's fantastic, It's an inspiration for people going on courses to just go put the grit in do the work, do things like go to people's houses, don't be scared of things. Learn, and look where you are, you know.
What's the worst that can happen? Like, that's what I think. What is the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
You
do
can
things
make
that
a fool
scare
of
you and just
yourself.
jump
But
in. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Good.
We'll have a follow-up with you, because I'm like,
Aye.
next
I really
year you're
want
like,
you.
yeah, bought 4 tower blocks in Castle Street in Edinburgh.
You see that big castle that's get built in Edinburgh? That was
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, I don't know about that. But yeah, thank you. That's very kind.
Lovely.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much for coming on. Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.